Ross Ramsey from the Texas Tribune is here, and one of the big stories we've been talking about is this issue of the homelessness ordinance in the city of Austin, and now Governor Greg Abbott getting involved, essentially warning the city, you need to clean it up or I'm going to step in. You have covered news in the state of Texas for a long time. Do you remember seeing an instance where a governor kind of taking a direct aim at another city like this in the state?
Well, you know, depends on how you do it. You know, the tone was a little bit different this time. The mayor came in, Mayor Adler came in and said, you know, I'm going to take this as an offer of assistance. And, you know,
which didn't sound like that's what the governor was saying.
Well, he's trying to diffuse it a little bit. But, you know, there's two problems here. One of them is that Austin has a lot of homeless people. And where do you put them? The other problem is that where the city of Austin's ordinances have put them has in itself become a problem. And it's that second problem that the governor's responding to. You know, I expect that they'll get to work on this and try to figure out a way to work it out. The city's ordinance has been very unpopular, particularly with downtown businesses and with in some spots around town, as you guys know, you've been covering it. And the governor is really responding to that. I think the mayor's trying to take the politics out of it and just get to the homelessness problem.
What realistically, though, could the governor do?
You can do a lot with public safety and public health. And, you know, you can say, you know, this is unsafe to have in this area. These people are too close to the street. These people are dangerous to others on the sidewalk. You can do a lot of things like that. It would be extraordinary for the state to take the role that the city is supposed to play, but the governor's trying to turn up the heat and get the city to do a little bit more of what he wants. All
right, want to turn the attention to some politics in terms of at least election-style politics. Right. Mac Thornberry, another Republican member of Congress, saying he's done. He's retiring and leaving. That makes 6 now from Texas. What do you make of that? What does that say about the state of Republicans here in the state of Texas?
I think it's 6 different cases, but it's weird. You know, Texas has lost 6. In Washington, they're calling it the Texodus because it's not really happening in other states. We've got 3 of the 6 who left leaving districts that Republicans are going to win. 3 of the Republicans who are leaving districts that could be contested and could go to the Democrats depending on how the winds are blowing. So there's a bunch of mixed reasons. 2 of these guys, including Thornberry, are term limited off of committees, and they're just deciding to move on. And it's no fun if you've been in the majority in Congress to be in the minority as the Republicans are now. So I think all of those things combine to produce a Texodus.
So at the same time, though, Pete Sessions, long time in Congress, lost his last election, is now talking about coming back, but not in the district that he served before. He wants to move. What is the move, and what is the significance of him wanting to move?
Well, I think the first thing is he lost a district in Dallas that he'd held for more than 20 years to Colin Allred, and the normal course of things would be, hey, I want a rematch. And I guess he's decided he can't win in that district. So rather than run in that Dallas suburban district, he's decided to move to Waco, where Bill Flores has decided not to run again. It's a district that goes from Waco down to Bryan College Station. And Sessions says, you know, I lived here as a kid, I'm going to try this. Flores had kind of a devastating line, I wish he'd asked me first.
What do you mean by that, do you think?
I think he means that they had other candidates in mind, that they probably are looking at people who have lived there for a while, you know, Waco residents, Bryan residents, people in between, rather than some guy from Dallas. So a lot more to develop there.
And it's more conservative. Feels like it's a better shot for him.
It's a better shot for a Republican if you can win the primary. But there are a lot of people who, upon Bill Flores's decision not to seek another term, said, hey, I'd like to run for that job. So there are a lot of people who live in the district now who are running for the job as Republicans who Pete Sessions is going to have to get past.
So speaking of the kind of democratization, if you will, of Dallas, that is going to be the site of President Trump's first rally that he has been holding here in Texas since the whole impeachment inquiry started. He's holding it at American Airlines Arena. That's a county, though, you mentioned he lost very handily to Hillary Clinton in the election. What do you expect to come from this rally? What do we think is going to happen? Because there's certainly probably going to be protesters outside the rally.
Right. You know, the president wants to keep the balloon afloat. He wants to keep his people enthused and engaged as the Democrats are getting enthused and engaged around this latest thing. You know, there's always a thing with Trump. I don't know that impeachment will be what we're talking about when we vote in a year. But they'll probably be talking about Trump. Right now they're talking about impeachment. Nancy Pelosi was at Texas Tribune Festival last weekend, sort of laying a predicate for this and saying, you know, he's in my wheelhouse now. You've got a Democratic statement in Texas. You're going to get a Republican counterstatement in Texas.
Did you get a chance to talk with her when she was here in town for that? Because for a long time she was pushing the brakes on going through this impeachment. Now all of a sudden she's into it. Did she let on as to what led to her changing her mind?
She talked to Evan Smith on stage at the Paramount for about an hour, and they covered a lot of topics, including, you know, why they're getting into this. The impeachment just got to be too much to avoid after, you know, they learned about the Ukrainian phone conversation. And there were 7 members, I believe, of Congress who are moderates, who are from Democrats from areas where Trump won in 2016, who came out with a letter in the Washington Post and said, you know, we want an inquiry on impeachment. They're not saying we want impeachment, they're saying we need to investigate this. I think with that prompt, Nancy Pelosi looked at it and said, we're taking the whole Democratic caucus in.
What's coming up on Texas Tribune?
You know, there's a lot going on in Texas. There's just 2 months before people file for the elections, so there's a lot of politics in the world. And, you know, frankly, we're recovering from TribFest.
Yeah, I would imagine. So, Ross Ramsey, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Always a pleasure.